Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, there you go. It just happened. Come on, the roots.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
In the glittering heart of Hollywood, she was the embodiment of perfection. A radiant smile, elegant posture, and eyes that carried both innocence and ambition. Anne Hathaway wasn't just acting in fairy tales, she was living one. From the Princess Diaries to Les Misérables, her rise was nothing short of cinematic. But in Hollywood, the crown of perfection is heavy, and it cuts deep. When the applause faded, the whispers began. She's too polished, too fake, too perfect to be real. The same media that once adored her turned her into a symbol of everything they love to hate. So what happens when America's sweetheart becomes its villain? And how does she rewrite her story? On her own terms. This isn't a tale about fame. It's about survival, redemption, and a woman who discovered that real grace begins the moment perfection ends. Long before the fame, before the red carpets and golden statues, Anne Jacqueline Hathaway was just a wide-eyed girl from Brooklyn, New York. Born on November 12, 1982, she grew up in Millburn, New Jersey, a quiet suburb far from the chaos of Hollywood. Her mother, Kate Macaulay, was a stage actress. Her father, Gerald Hathaway, a lawyer. It was her mother's world, the smell of makeup, the thrill of stage lights, that captured young Anne's imagination. As a child, she was shy but fiercely emotional. She once dreamed of becoming a nun, guided by her family's Catholic faith, until she realized that acting allowed her to explore every emotion she was taught to suppress. That revelation changed everything. But growing up wasn't easy. Anne battled anxiety and a constant pressure to be perfect, a pattern that would follow her into adulthood. She often described herself as too sensitive for her own good, a girl who felt everything too deeply. Still, that sensitivity became her secret weapon. When others pretended on stage, Anne believed, and long before the world saw a princess, there was already a girl rehearsing in her bedroom mirror. Not for fame, but to prove she was enough. Anne's first steps into the spotlight weren't paved with glamour. At 16, she landed a role in the short-lived TV series Get Real, a small show that barely lasted a season. But it gave her something priceless, a taste of storytelling, of becoming someone else. Then, in 2001, everything changed. She was cast as Mia Thermopolis in The Princess Diaries, a clumsy teenager who discovers she's heir to a royal throne. The movie exploded, and overnight, Anne Hathaway became the new face of innocence. Critics compared her to Julia Roberts and Audrey Hepburn. The world loved her. But Hollywood has a way of turning admiration into a trap. Anne was instantly boxed into the sweet princess image. Soft, polite, predictable. And for an actress who had always dreamed of depth, that was suffocating. So she did something unexpected. She broke her own crown. Anne started taking darker, riskier roles in Havoc and Brokeback Mountain, roles that made people uncomfortable, but made her feel alive. The transition wasn't easy. The tabloids mocked her, the studios hesitated, but quietly, behind every smile on the red carpet, Anne was building something stronger than fame. She was building range. If The Princess Diaries made Anne Hathaway famous, The Devil Wears Prada made her unforgettable. In 2006, she stepped into the world of high fashion as Andy Sachs, the naive assistant who learns to survive under the ruthless Miranda Priestley. It was the perfect metaphor for Anne's own Hollywood journey. A young woman trying to prove she belonged in a world that didn't forgive softness. The film was a phenomenon. Suddenly, Anne wasn't just the princess. She was powerful, ambitious, and sharp. A woman capable of standing next to Meryl Streep and holding her ground. Her confidence, her intelligence, and her emotional precision turned her into one of Hollywood's most promising actresses. Success followed her everywhere. From Becoming Jane to Rachel Getting Married, Anne's performances grew deeper, rawer, more fearless. In 2012, her portrayal of Fantine in Les Misérables earned her an Academy Award, a moment of pure triumph. Her acceptance speech went viral. Her career seemed unstoppable. But behind the flawless gowns and polished smiles, something else was happening. The media began to turn. The same poise that once drew admiration now sparked suspicion. She was too perfect, too rehearsed, too eager to please. Hollywood's darling had climbed to the very top, and yet she could feel the ground cracking beneath her heels. In chasing perfection, Anne Hathaway had unknowingly become a mirror for America's obsession with it, and soon that mirror would shatter. Every Hollywood fairy tale has a shadow, and for Anne Hathaway, it came when the world decided she was too perfect to be real. In 2008, her then-boyfriend, Italian businessman Raffaello Folieri, was arrested for wire fraud and money laundering. Overnight, Anne's name was splashed across every tabloid headline. America's princess caught in a scandal. Though she had nothing to do with his crimes, she became collateral damage. Her private journals were seized by the FBI, her reputation bruised. Anne tried to smile through it, but Hollywood had turned cold. The warmth that once welcomed her now mocked her. And as her fame soared after Les Misérables, a strange new wave began. The Hathaway era. Online forums and late-night shows turned her into a punchline. People called her fake, overacting, too perfect to like. Even her Oscar speech, heartfelt and trembling, was ridiculed as calculated. What no one saw was the woman behind the mask, exhausted, anxious, and quietly breaking. In interviews, she later admitted she stopped reading about herself entirely, terrified of the hate. She withdrew from the spotlight, questioning everything: her image, her worth, her place in Hollywood. But even in the silence, something inside her was shifting. The fall, as painful as it was, stripped away what the world had built around her. And for the first time, Anne Hathaway wasn't performing for anyone. She was learning who she really was, because when the applause fades and the cameras stop, only the real ones remain. When Anne Hathaway returned to the screen, she wasn't chasing perfection anymore. She was chasing truth. Gone was the image of Hollywood's flawless darling. In its place stood a woman who had been burned, rebuilt, and reborn. She stopped apologizing for being too much. She stopped pretending to be perfect. Instead, she embraced vulnerability as her superpower. Her comeback began quietly but confidently. Roles in Interstellar, Ocean's 8, and The Hustle reminded audiences that beneath the media noise was an actress of rare skill and presence. She played women who were clever, flawed, sometimes chaotic, and that honesty made her magnetic again. Off-screen, she found a new kind of fame, one grounded in authenticity. She spoke openly about anxiety, self-doubt, and the toxic pressures women face in Hollywood. She became an advocate for mental health, gender equality, and motherhood without shame. Marriage and motherhood softened her edges, but sharpened her purpose. She no longer acted to please. She acted to express. Anne Hathaway had finally done what few in Hollywood ever manage. She turned the backlash into a rebirth, and in doing so, she reminded everyone that the most beautiful thing a woman can be is real. Today, Anne Hathaway stands not just as an actress, but as a survivor of her own story. She's no longer the nervous girl trying to fit into Hollywood's mold. She's the woman who broke it. Her journey is more than a career. It's a lesson in endurance. She taught a generation that grace isn't about smiling through pain, but about owning it. That success means nothing if you have to lose yourself to keep it. And that perfection, no matter how shiny, can never compete with sincerity. From the fairy tale world of the Princess Diaries to the raw emotion of Les Misérables and beyond, Anne Hathaway has rewritten what it means to be a Hollywood icon. Not the most adored, not the most flawless, but the most human. Because in the end, her greatest role wasn't a queen, a dreamer, or a heroine. It was herself. The journey of Anne Hathaway proves that the fall doesn't define you. The rise after it does. If her story inspired you, like, share, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood journeys.